What if the storm around you isn't a punishment, but a compass? What if the doors that slammed shut were never your doors, and the ache in your chest is the sound of a higher calling? When Allah wants to elevate you, He doesn't just hand you a ladder. He reshapes your sight, your heart, your path. In this journey, 7 signs often arrive like secret letters, sealed with love, subtle but unmistakable when you learn their language. Ibn Arabi, the great master of the inner way, taught that elevation isn't escape, it's unveiling, a deepening into the real that was always here. So as you listen, ask yourself, which of these signs are already knocking, and are you ready to answer? There is a wisdom to the timing of your transformation, a hidden architecture guiding every turn. Elevation is not random. It is a precise act of mercy drawing you from the edges of forgetfulness to the center of remembrance. Allah raises some people by knowledge, by trials, by love, by insight, each in the shape their soul can bear. The Quran speaks of this beautiful gradation. Allah raises those who believe and those who were given knowledge in degrees, 58-11. This degree is not a badge, it's a capacity to witness, to serve, to love more truthfully. And the first hint you're being raised is often the one you least expect. Ibn Arabi reminds us in the Futuhat al-Makkiyah that what we call ascent is in truth a deepening into the one reality that sustains us. For him, unity of being does not collapse the world. It sanctifies at every moment an address from the real, every trial a verse recited in the theater of your life. Elevation, then, is not so much climbing to a God far away, but surrendering the veils that keep you from seeing Him near. He writes of states sewal and stations makomet, tides of openness and contraction by which the heart is trained. If your life is shifting, perhaps it is not chaos, perhaps it is choreography. Sign 1, holy disruption. The first sign of elevation is often a divinely arranged interruption, jobs that end, relationships that fray, plans that dissolve. Sufis call it kabd, a contraction that breaks old patterns so a truer expansion bast can arrive. Think of Prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him, whose path to authority did not bypass the well or the prison. The detours were the path. When your scaffolding falls, ask, what prison of habit is releasing me? Where is the new door that only opens when the familiar one closes? In disruption, Allah reclaims your attention. Ibn Arabi would say that Majesty Jala clears the ground, and Beauty Jamal plants the garden. The contraction is a severe mercy, a winter that protects the seed beneath the soil. With hardship comes ease, 94-5-6, but ease does not always come the way we script it. It arrives as clarity, as disentanglement, as release from illusions you once mistook for life. Do not curse the winter, attend to its lessons. Ask yourself in the quiet, what did I cling to that could not carry me? What is Allah removing that I no longer need? Here is a practice for disruption. Name the loss, bless the lesson, and look for the substitution. Write down 3 attachments that ended and the virtues they're now training in your patience, humility, reliance. Then, in a simple dhikr, breathe out La ilaha, no false refuge, no idol of control, and breathe in illallah, only the real remains. Elevation begins when you stop patching the old tent and start pitching camp where the wind points. You are not being punished, you are being positioned. Sign 2, the mirror turns inward. When Allah intends to raise you, He polishes your self-knowledge until it stings. Old excuses sour in your mouth. You begin noticing the subtle manipulations, the small vanities, the delicate resentments you used to ignore. But this is not shame, it is surgery. Ibn Arabi speaks of the heart as a mirror of the real. When fog clears, what remains is not self-loathing, but true seeing. Muhasaba, sacred self-accounting, becomes sweet, because you know who is looking with you, and awareness itself feels like grace. Listen to the Sheikh Al-Akbar's voice in his poetry. My heart has become capable of every form, a pasture for gazelles, a convent for monks, a temple for idols, and the pilgrim's Kaaba. I follow the religion of love. Whichever way love's camels take, that is my religion and my faith. Tarjuman al-Achwak. This isn't permissiveness, it is spaciousness. A heart trained by the real does not collapse into judgment or vanity. It sees through forms to the one who appears in them. The Quran hints at this unveiling. We shall show them our signs on the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth. 41-53. The mirror within and the world without rhyme in a single song. To practice this sign, meet your reflection with tenderness. Each evening ask, Where did I act from fear, and where from love? Where did I defend an image, and where did I honor the real? When you catch an ego pattern, don't wage war. Offer it to God like a child handing back a toy that's become too heavy. Ibn Arabi teaches that every form you meet is the real addressing you in a language you can understand. So speak back with sincerity. The polished mirror doesn't shout, it shines. Notice, too, how these first two signs dance together. Disruption makes space, introspection fills it with meaning. Together they unhook you from the life you perform and yoke you to the life you are called to live. You may feel more porous, more sensitive, more aware of both your limits and your longing. That is a good sign. Humility is not smallness, it is proportion. You are remembering your place in the vastness of divine mercy, and the soul begins to breathe again. If you're hearing this and recognizing your season, pause and whisper gratitude. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. The friend who interrupts your comfort is the same friend who writes your arrival. Elevation is not a promotion for the ego. It's the soft dethroning of everything that can die. You are being taught resilience without hardness, clarity without coldness, surrender without passivity. Isn't that the life you wanted before you got busy wanting other things? We have 5 more signs to unfold attractions of remembrance, the softening of the heart into universal compassion, trials that train trust, guides who appear at the right hour, and the flowering of gratitude that perceives the one in all. Each sign will come with stories, practices, and the wisdom of Ibn Arabi to steady your step. If you're ready, we'll continue. Let's keep unfolding the journey with the next signs, those quiet, undeniable movements by which the real re-educates the heart. If the first 2 signs loosened your grip and turned your gaze inward, these will tune your breath to remembrance, widen your compassion beyond the borders of self, and train your trust through trials that look like storms but carry rain. As you listen, notice where your heart leans in or resists. That's data. Ibn Arabi would remind us that your path is tailor-made. Nothing arrives that is not speaking your name. The question is not whether God is calling, it's whether we have learned to hear. Sign 3. You feel a pull to remembrance that is hard to explain. You want to sit a few extra minutes after prayer. You start repeating divine names softly under your breath. Familiar conversations feel noisier than before, while silence feels full, almost musical. You may wake at night and find your tongue already moving, Allah, Allah. This is not you becoming pious as a performance, it's the heart resuming its native rhythm. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah, do hearts find rest, Quran 13:28. The rest is not an escape from life, it's the light by which you can finally see life clearly. Dhikr is the soul's homecoming. Think of Prophet Yunus, peace be upon him, in the darkness of the whale, the sea, the night, no exit, no plan, just remembrance. He didn't negotiate, he surrendered, calling on the one beyond the waves and the one within his own chest. When Allah wants to elevate you, he simplifies your prayers. Instead of ornate petitions, you slip into presence. Here is a practice. Pick one name that matches your seasonal latif, the subtle, Al-Hadi, the guide, Azabar, the patient, and carry it through your day. Link it to your breath, to your steps, to a task you do often. In the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, Ibn Arabi speaks of the breath of the All-Merciful, through which creation is continuously renewed. Every inhale is a chance to be made new. When you slip, do not dramatize, return. The point is not intensity, it is consistency. The heart learns like a child through repetition, kindness, and play. Sign 4. The heart softens into a compassion you cannot explain. You feel moved by the pain of strangers. Your judgments lose their bite. You begin to see the person beneath the behavior. This is not weakness, it is a stronger gravity. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was sent as a mercy to all the world's Quran 21 banding 107, and the closer a heart draws to him, the more it reflects that mercy. Ibn Arabi teaches that compassion is not optional on the path. It is the proof that your knowledge is real. If your insights make you harsher, they're not insights, they're opinions with a costume. Consider the Prophet at Taif, bleeding after rejection, praying not for revenge but for guidance for those who struck him. Consider Rabia al-Adawiyah walking through Basra with a torch and a bucket, vowing to burn heaven and douse hell so people would love God for God. The Sufis were radical in this. They sought the giver beyond the gifts and the fear. Ibn Arabi, in the Fusius al-Hikam, writes of the perfect human as the mirror of divine names. To be raised is to become more reflective of Rama, the compassion that mothers every moment. Mercy is not navit, it is seeing with God's proportion. Practice compassion deliberately. Make a small, secret act of service each day. Learn the names Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, and let them shape your tone with your family, your colleagues, your own self-talk. When hurt arises, don't deny it, surround it. Ask, what would mercy do here that my pride cannot? Ibn Arabi says the real appears to each according to their capacity. By widening our capacity through kindness, we host more of the real. And remember, boundaries can be merciful too. Mercy is not permissiveness. It is appropriate generosity guided by wisdom. Sign 5. Trials arrive, and instead of breaking you, they train trust. Elevation comes with weight, responsibility, complexity, uncertainty, and Allah does not put that weight on an untrained spine. The story of Ibrahim, peace be upon him, tells it beautifully. We said, "O fire, be coolness and safety for Abraham." Quran 21 banding and 69. The miracle is not that the fire existed, it's that trust altered its nature. Ibn Arabi would call this the marriage of majesty and beauty, the jalal of the fire, the jamal of the coolness, met in a heart surrendered to the real. Tawakkul, sacred reliance, is not passivity. It is a strong choreography. You tie your camel and then you trust. You fill out the application and then you trust. You take your medicine and then you trust. Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani relates that a dazzling light once appeared to him claiming to be his Lord, telling him that obligations were lifted from him. He replied, "Be gone, O accursed one, because the real does not contradict the real." Trials teach you to discern lights that flatter from light that freeze. In hardship, elevation looks like clarity. To train trust, practice small obediences, keep one promise you've been postponing. Give charity even when the ego pinches. Sit in stillness for 5 minutes when anxiety wants to sprint. Notice how often fear tries to predict a future it cannot know. Then answer fear with a name, Al-Wakil, the trustee, Al-Kafi, the sufficient. Ibn Arabi often returns to a simple instruction: be with God in every state. When you can be with God in uncertainty, you can be with God in abundance without getting drunk on it. That steadiness is a mark of elevation. Let's gather what these signs are doing in you. Remembrance retunes your interior. Compassion widens your orbit. Trials grow your backbone of trust. You may already feel more anchored and more tender at the same time. Good. That is the signature of real growth. The Sheikh Al-Akbar hints that God is known by God in you when you taste presence. It is the real introducing the real. Stay with it gently. Let love do the heavy lifting. And keep noticing what practices are sticking, what reactions are loosening. Before we move to the next signs, I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 7 signs have you felt most strongly in your life? Drop a comment with the word elevate and share one moment when remembrance, compassion, or trust shifted your path. Your story might be the bridge someone else needs. If you're ready, we'll continue with signs 6 and 7, how guidance arrives through teachers and companions, and how gratitude flowers into a vision that sees the one in all. Now we step into the last 2 signs, how guidance arrives through teachers and companions, and how gratitude ripens into a vision that sees the one in all things. If the earlier signs tuned your heart to remembrance, compassion, and trust, these next ones show you how Allah plants you in the right soil and then opens your sight to the garden that was always there. Ibn Arabi would say elevation is relational. The real meets you as a guide when you need a hand, and as a horizon when you need a view. As you listen, ask gently, who has Allah sent to me lately, and what am I being shown through them? Sign 6, a guide appears. Sometimes it's a teacher, sometimes a friend whose words land with the weight of truth, sometimes a book that reads you as you read it. Think of Prophet Musa seeking the company of Khidr. Peace be upon them both. May I follow you, so that you teach me from what you have been taught of sound judgment. Kurandalapan Blas, Banding and Ampalunam. It is an archetype of humility. Knowledge walks toward knowledge, not because it is lacking worth, but because it craves wider sight. Ibn Arabi, in the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, describes the teacher as a mirror in which the seeker learns to witness the real with more fidelity. How do you recognize a true guide? Humility more than charisma, presence more than performance. A way of listening that makes you braver, not smaller. They turn you toward God, not toward themselves. They teach at a bright conduct so your love doesn't become a storm without a shore. Al-Junayd of Baghdad spoke of sobriety in the midst of intoxication. A guide helps you carry fire in your chest without burning your life down. Ibn Arabi reminds us that the real teaches through forms. The outward guide is a mercy. The inward teacher is the one who breathes through them. Ibn Arabi recounts meeting the philosopher Ibn Rushd as a young man. The scholar asked whether unveiling agrees with rational thought. Yes, he answered, then no. And between the yes and the no, he said, spirits fly from their matter. The elder trembled. That encounter, preserved in the Futuhat, shows how a true meeting dislodges the mind from its proud certainties and ushers it into a more spacious knowing. A guide may not give you new answers. They might give you new eyes. They may not simplify your map. They may deepen your compass. What if you haven't found a teacher you trust? Begin with prayer and readiness. Read the lives of the prophets and the sages. Practice adab with those already in your life. Parents, elders, colleagues, because respect attracts teachers like perfume attracts honeybees. And remember a simple Quranic instruction that sits at the heart of seeking. Ask the people of knowledge if you do not know. Quran jam 16:43. Guidance often begins with a question asked sincerely, not for debate, but for transformation. When the student appears as humility, the teacher appears as mercy. Here is a practice for welcoming guidance. Make a short dua each dawn. O guide, guide me to those who lead me to you, and make me a companion who leads others to you. Then practice what Ibn Arabi calls preparedness istidad. In the Fusias al-Hikam, he teaches that every reception is according to readiness. Prepare by keeping your word, guarding your tongue, showing up when you'd rather hide. When a guide comes, receive them with gratitude, and when they correct you, receive it like rain. A true guide protects your freedom while challenging your comfort. That's how you grow. Sign 7. Gratitude flowers into vision. Shukr stops being a polite phrase and becomes the music of your days. You begin thanking in advance, thanking during, thanking after, because you can sense the giver pulsing through each gift and each test. Ibn Arabi writes in the Futuhat that gratitude is a recognition of the divine name, Al-Manim, the bestower, in every breath. Gratitude is not denial of pain. It is the art of naming the hidden kindnesses that travel inside even the hard things. Gratitude softens the lens until light gets in. This is where unity of being becomes practical. Wahdatul Wujud, as Ibn Arabi articulates, it is not a slogan. It is a way of seeing that lifts the veil of separateness without erasing distinction. You don't confuse the cup with the water, the form with the source. You simply learn to notice the water moving through many cups. In the Fusias al-Hikam, he speaks of the perfect human as the locus of manifestation for divine names. Gratitude trains you to read the names. Al-Fatah, opening a path. Al-Hakim, shaping a delay. Ar-Razak, providing through a stranger's kindness. Vision widens, panic shrinks. Consider a simple divine promise. If you are grateful, I will surely increase you Quran and Populus banding tuju. The increase is not only in things, it is in capacity. Gratitude expands the vessel so that more life can flow through it. Think of Prophet Ayub, peace be upon him, whose patience under illness was itself a praise song. When relief came, gratitude did not begin it, simply changed key. Ibn Arabi would say, the real is known by the real. The grateful heart is a place where the real recognizes his own generosity. Practice gratitude deliberately and creatively. At sunrise, name 3 mercies you overlooked yesterday. A smile that unclenched your jaw, a traffic light that saved you from haste, a verse that followed you around all afternoon. In Sujud, make a prostration of thanks even when you don't feel like it. The body can teach the heart, and translate gratitude into generosity. If you received counsel, offer counsel. If you received patience, be patient with someone who is learning. The Sufis teach that the surest way to keep a gift is to spend it on others. You may notice that gratitude and guidance are twins. A guide trains your eyes, and gratitude keeps them clear. Together they birth a quality Ibn Arabi treasured. Delight in the real's self-disclosure. The real is known only by the real. He writes in the future, when gratitude becomes your default, even a delay can feel like a disguised arrival, and even a closed door can feel like a lesson in timing. Ask yourself gently, where can I change complaint into curiosity? Where can I thank before I understand? We have now walked all 7 signs. Holy disruption, the mirror of self-knowledge, the pull of remembrance, compassion's widening, trials that train trust, the arrival of guides, and gratitude's vision. None of these is a finish line. They braid into a single rope that pulls you closer to the one you already belong to. In the final part, we'll gather the thread: how to protect your elevation, how to embody it in service, and how to continue walking when the path feels ordinary again. Before we continue, if this journey has been meaningful, consider subscribing so you don't miss the teachings and stories ahead. Your presence helps this circle grow. We walked through the 7 signs and felt how they braid into a single rope of remembrance and return. Now, how do you protect this elevation, embody it in service, and keep walking when the path looks ordinary again? Ibn Arabi offers a compass hidden in a small, luminous principle. There is no repetition in divine self-disclosure. Every moment is a first time. If that is true, protection is less about building walls and more about staying awake. Elevation wilts under autopilot. It flourishes with presence. So, together, let's gather what helps you remain fresh to the real, even as life resumes its familiar shape. First, guard your climate. The heart is a garden, and gardens thrive by rhythm: light, water, pruning, seasons of rest. Keep company with those who remind you of God without preaching, whose laughter is clean, whose ambition includes the unseen. Be deliberate about what you feed your eyes and ears. Beauty is a nutrient, and noise a toxin. The Quran counsels, keep yourself patient with those who call upon their Lord morning and evening, seeking His face, and do not let your eyes pass beyond them, desiring the adornment of this worldly life. 1828. Choose circles that expand your sincerity, not your image. Elevation needs shelter from the winds that scatter attention. Second, keep a simple rule of daily return. Ibn Arabi speaks of preparedness as sadads, the measure of what you can receive. You increase it by showing up. A short dhikr on waking, a pause of muraqabah watchfulness before sleep, 2 units of prayer when the house is still, a page of a book that reminds your soul how to listen. In the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, he writes of the breath of the All-Merciful, through which creation is renewed at every instant. Ride that breath with small, faithful practices. Protecting elevation is humble work. You carry water and chop wood, and suddenly the forest sings. Third, translate your station into service. Knowledge that doesn't bend toward benefit hardens the heart. The Sufis call it sowing the field of lavika al-hub, where you take what you've been given and plant it in someone else's need. Smile for the anxious, hold space for the grieving, share bread with a neighbor without a sermon attached. Junaid called Sufism taking on the character traits of God, showing mercy, generosity, patience in ways that fit your size. Ibn Arabi reminds us that the perfect human is a mirror for the divine names. Reflect them locally. Elevation protected becomes elevation shared. Let the prophets tutor you in what service looks like. Consider Musa, peace be upon him, exhausted and in exile, arriving at a well in Madian and choosing to serve before he speaks. He waters the flock for 2 women, retreats to the shade, then turns his need into prayer. It is a choreography of humility and helpfulness. So he watered their flock for them. Then he turned back to the shade and said, "My Lord, truly I am in need of whatever good you might send down to me." Quran 28 banding 24. Service is not an extra, it is a door. Often, your next elevation walks in after you have lifted someone else's burden. What about the ordinary days, the emails, dishes, meetings where no thunder rolls? This is where Ibn Arabi's vision becomes medicine. He tells us the cosmos is imagination, khayal, not unreal, but a living tapestry through which the real appears in forms. There is no repetition in self-disclosure. The real never shows up the same way twice. That means the commute can be a page in the book, the sink a small mirror, the spreadsheet a lesson in diligence and trust. Protect your elevation by sanctifying routine. Whisper a name when you open a door. Offer your intention before you open a browser. The ordinary is not the enemy. It is the training ground where presence deepens. Expect tests specifically tailored to your height. After a rise comes the temptation to stare in the mirror, spiritual pride, the subtle belief that I am special, or dryness visits, and you wonder if you imagined everything. Remember, Iblis knew God's command, yet fell through pride. Knowledge without humility curdles. Ibn Arabi warns that stations can become idols if we cling to them. Let the winds of kabd and bast, contraction and expansion, teach you to love the giver more than the gifts. If delight fades, keep your etiquette. Tie your camel. Do the small obediences. Humility is a rein that never misses its appointment. Stay teachable by inviting correction. Make a quiet covenant with two friends to mirror you with kindness when ego fog appears. Ask in your night prayer, show me, O real, what I cannot see about myself, and make seeing sweet. Ibn Arabi often describes the heart as a polished mirror. What clouds it is not sin alone, but stubbornness. When you are corrected, bow inside, even if your face must stay strong. Say thank you for the unwelcome gift. A heart that can be resculpted by truth is a heart God trusts with more truth. Root everything in love, not the vapor of sentiment, but the fire that forged the worlds. Sufi tradition repeats a teaching that Ibn Arabi cherishes. I was a hidden treasure, and I loved to be known. So I created creation that I might be known. He treats love as the engine of manifestation, the gravity that pulls all things toward their source. This is not poetry alone, it is practice. Begin your work with love, discipline your anger with love, shape your boundaries with love. The Quran sketches the reciprocity that elevation tastes. He loves them, and they love him. 554. When love becomes your motive, even sacrifice feels like expansion. Step 9. Remember the religion of love. Ibn Arabi's verse from the Tarjuman al-Ashwaq holds the secret. My heart has become capable of every form. I follow the religion of love. Love here is not indulgence. It is the wideness that lets reality be what it is without surrendering truth. Keep a 40-day ledger of your practice pauses taken, names hosted, opposite acts attempted. Celebrate one small change each evening. When you fail, turn and begin again without theatrics. Revisit the mirror teaching. The real is your mirror and you are his, each reflecting according to preparedness. Prepare yourself with beauty, and the world grows more legible, less punishing, more intimate. And now we close. You have learned to pause and name, to breathe and host, to act against the old gravity, to braid decree with choice, to return without shame, to serve as alchemy, to remember and trust, to widen into love. This is how a loop becomes a ladder. This is how pain reveals its letter from the real. If this journey spoke to you, honor it with action today. Share this video with one friend who needs a new beginning. Leave a comment naming the loop you ready to end, and the divine name you will invite and subscribe so this practice stays close. May your next repetition be a revelation, and may the one who never repeats himself unveil a new you in the very place you thought was hopeless.